Welcome to the Gym Secrets Podcast with myself, Cale Owen, Mike Ferreira, and Ed Turney. This podcast has one simple goal: make gym owners wildly successful. We have each owned or currently own profitable gyms. And over the past 5 years, we have helped over 5,000 gyms become massively profitable through the secrets we will share on this podcast. And if you listen in closely, we guarantee that you will be able to build a wildly profitable gym. Enjoy. And as always, if you find value in this, do us a massive favor and just share this with other gym owners that you know. All right, guys, we are back with another episode of the Gym Secrets Podcast here with Ed Turney, Mike Ferreira. We are excited to be back, dropping some knowledge, being tactical today. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's rock this out. So today's topic, we're talking about meeting cadences. What should your meeting cadence be with your team inside of your facility? So let's break this down. I'm curious for you guys, how you guys did it. I think we were all similar. But Ed, start it off real quick. Walk me through the meeting cadence that not only do we suggest, but also that you guys did inside your facility.
Yeah, and just before anyone tunes out on this is the thing that actually made us the most money, because communicating with your team and like having regular meeting cadences is incredibly important. So it may not sound like it from if you're newer at this, but it is incredibly important. So first is just a weekly meeting. So that would happen usually on Mondays for the entire team. A lot of times, most employees are not going to come in for that nowadays. Like, they can be on Zoom for it, but like your full timers that are already there, like on shift or whatever, like they'll be in person. So like combination of in person and Zoom is fine. And there's usually no more than like 25, 30 minutes recapping what the results were from last week, some client wins to keep conviction super high, having different people own different pieces of that meeting. So like sales reports on sales, manager reports on, maybe retention stats, looking at the business as a whole, and then just kind of giving them some motivation to focus on for the week, and really just reminders of what the mission of the business is and some of the core values. So that's weekly. Monthly, we would do an all hands on, which is usually like a 2-hour thing, which would be a combination of like working on physical training. So like for us, we have kickboxing gyms. So it's like literally getting on the floor, working out together, kickboxing, and like making coaching better. And then the other half is usually like mindset or like TED Talk types things, or we might like buy everybody a book to read, for the month, and then like discuss some of the mindset stuffs in the book. Quarterly was the same format, just a little bit longer, where we talked about like the quarterly goals. So it's like, here's our numbers for this quarter. These are the numbers for next quarter we're going to hit. Do we think that's reasonable? And then assign tasks for everybody. And then honestly, I think the most impactful thing is the one-on-ones that we would do. So if they're a full-time person, or at least relatively full-time, a weekly one-on-one for 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the role, was really, really, really valuable. And I'll tell you this, guys really have similar experiences. Like, anytime I missed that, something went bad. Like, anytime I missed just 1 week, I noticed a dip in morale, a dip in sales, just everything, because team members really need to be heard, and they need to express things. They need to know that, you are aligned with them. So that was it. So weekly, and the one-on-ones are weekly with everybody. So weekly, monthly, quarterly.
Do you do one-on-ones with like part-timers weekly?
I did in the last gyms. I think as you scale, you can have like your manager own those for the most part, and then you just meet the leaders of the team. Just depends on the size of the organization. I mean, if it was me like starting out, if I was like on site and owner operator, I would meet with everybody once a week just to really build that culture and that mission, because it's always going to come best from the owner, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think. We obviously had a similar journey, and so we stayed in touch through our careers. So a lot of what we did mirrored that. Looking back to the mistakes I made, it's interesting. Like you said, when you don't have the meetings, you feel disconnected from the team. When the team feels disconnected, at least in my experience, to the owner or their manager, I think there's a direct correlation them being disconnected to the mission and vision of the business, right? And then the quality of the product and the service really drops. And so I made a lot of mistakes early on in the career, just not having these, consistent meetings. They'd be kind of like one off here, one off there. And it was that consistency later on that I think drove the quality of the product higher, and of course, strengthened the business. I think really the only thing I would say that evolved a little differently was, as I stepped out of my gym, it was delegating those meetings to the manager, and then myself increasing the communication with my manager, right, with my GM. So I meet twice a week with her, shorter and very specific focus of like first thing is going to be, let's talk about the team. Let's talk about, sales. Let's look at the numbers, like financials, right? Retention, everything like that. And on the back end of the week, what we'll do is we'll look through where are we at with our, product, where are we at with our focus for the quarter? Like, where are we at with the different targets that we have, whether it be, a certain project that's on the table, right? So I've had to, I stepped out of the gym and not being in there. That's been a learning. There's been a learning curve there of how to effectively get the information I need when not being in the building. But being able to focus first on the team and the financials and the numbers, and then getting down into the projects and like zooming out on the back end of the week has been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Ours are similar when we had ours. So there's different phases, right? When you're building a gym, when you're a smaller team, you don't need as many, your meetings will look very different than when you have a bigger team. And when we were smaller and just starting off, we had the weekly meeting with our full-time people. I'm putting quotes here, full-time people. And then we had a monthly meeting. So that was like all hands, and that was all financials and vision, mission. What are our goals for the next month? What are we trying to accomplish? And then since we did that every month, at the quarterly one, it just was a normal monthly meeting. Just now we're reviewing the quarter and looking forward for the quarter. So we didn't have a separate one. When I was building the team, I needed really good trainers. So we had a separate weekly meeting where we would talk about how it was all tactical training. So like how can you become a better coach on the floor? And so we just did that. Then as we grew, we maintained that, but I handed that off to my director of training, who would then run those. And so I would monitor and make sure everything's good, but he would manage that. And then our weekly meetings became really, really honed in for our full-timers. But then we noticed that we needed to have daily huddles. So we'd have a 10 to 15 minute daily huddle with our full-timers. At one point we had 4 full-time staff, right? And so we were morning, getting everybody set, quick little huddle. I never ran those. My wife did, because Maggie was in the gym at the time and I was working. So I never ran those. She did. But our weekly meetings, we would both run. She would run the daily huddles. I would run the monthly and I would run the quarterly. And then I would run the coaches ones until my director of training came over. But I think it's interesting that we talk to gym owners. I think it's important for us to talk about this real quick. Is we hear a lot of excuses as to why coaches and owners don't do this. They're like, either I don't have the time or all my staff is part-time. Right. And I can't stress enough how important it is to have a meeting cadence set to not only hear from your own team members, but even more importantly, pour into them and remind them of why you are doing what you're doing. You also need a scoreboard, and you need to show them that you're winning, or you need to show them that you're losing and what needs to change. There's this idea, I think a lot of times we talk to a lot of gym owners, and there's this idea of like, I don't know if I should share my numbers. I don't know if I should share these things. And it's like, they're part of your team. Like they need to know when you're winning and when you're losing, because I can guarantee you, if you treat them like little kids that should be coddled or not know the good stuff or the bad stuff, like you're going to find out really quickly that they're not going to be loyal to the business whatsoever. They're also not going to they're not going to have an impact in your business that you want to, unless you share and are transparent with what you do. Now, if you want to share profit numbers, that's up to you, but we always shared revenue. We always shared member count, exits, new signups, all this stuff. We talked about all of these things. And I think it's really important for gym owners to understand that. Your team wants to understand what's happening in the business. They want transparency. If you were expecting them to be transparent with you, you need to lead first, and you need to be transparent with them on what's going right, what's going wrong in the business, and how you plan to fix it. And you need to have a plan as a leader. It's like, this is how we're going to turn this ship around, or this is how we're going to continue to see success. Great job, guys. Great job with the behaviors that are needed for us to be able to add 20 new members or 40 new members this past month. Let's keep doing this, right? And if not, like, this is how we right the ship and get moving. But it needs to happen, like, without a doubt. And I think it's interesting, everyone's experiences, because like Ed, you found a lot of help and positive stuff from your one-on-ones. I found more from our group meetings than the one-on-ones, and I think it was me being not in the business, because I was working at the time, throughout the entire time. So I had a harder time extracting things from them and getting them to open up on like personal stuff, which is what the whole goal for me was, like, how can I help you as a human first? And it could have also, it's 100% on me for not asking the right questions or maybe not having the right stuff. But I know that our team meetings were bomb. Like, our team meetings were exceptional. The energy was there. People loved it. They always showed up. We had a great time. And they were always, people walked away with a clear vision and understanding of where we are now and where we're trying to go.
I think as you're talking through this, it makes me realize two things that I think were the most impactful pieces of having just a team that would just like run through walls, right, together. Like we had an incredible culture. And number one was being open with financials. I think you can only get so much buy-in with just sharing part of the story, right? And everyone wants to win together, but it's super hard to win. It's super hard to figure out where you are if there's really no scoreboard, like you said, right? And so that was number one. And number two was, Ed, to your point, the quarterlies we always did quarterly meetings, but what we did is we paired it with some kind of team outing, some kind of event, right? And I absolutely, after every single one of those, you could see just the energy, right? Just pour over into the business, into the team, into the service, into our members after we got together and did some crazy thing, like whatever. Like Ed actually came down to our gym once and joined one of those, and we went to the casino. Everyone went out to dinner. It was all on, it was all on me. But those type of events that are outside of the actual business, I think, are key, to build memories, build connections. So not necessarily a meeting, but we did always pair it with that. And you could do anything, go-karts, stuff like that. But I think those were two pieces just of what we would do within the team that built an incredible culture for sure.
Can I hit on something real quick? And this is just an objection. I don't want to go too much further into this, but this is an objection we hear a lot. And that is specifically around sharing the numbers. And that is, I don't want them to know what I make or what I know. Well, I can guarantee you they're already doing the math in their head, and their math is wrong. They're already doing the math in their head, and their math is wrong, and it's always overinflated. So anytime you actually open up the numbers and they realize how much you're actually making, they're like, oh, shoot. Okay. I thought you were doing so much better. Okay. Wow. Like, we need to buckle down. We need to do better. Right. And even if you are crushing it, that's the expectation of a business owner. And if you have socialists and communists on your team that just hate money and don't want to be a part of it, then
do you lose them, Ed?
Yep.
Then that's fine. I think I froze up. But if you have people that don't care about money, they're not going to be a good fit on your team, period. Anyway. So that's a great opportunity, but transparency will win long term.
Yeah. Hiding or keeping the financials a secret is going to 100% of the time always going to lead to assumptions, right? And the assumptions are then just not going to lead to anything great. So great point.
Love it. Awesome. Ed, you good? You got any other points or you good?
No, just if you're not doing the meeting thing, start doing them. I can't emphasize enough, because at some point in time, you'll probably have to let people go. And that happens a lot. And I've shared this a couple different versions of our podcast, but I have sat down with people, let them go, and they were incredibly okay with it because of the relationship that we built over time. And I literally had coaches that were clients. They became coaches. They became clients again and paid for the membership. They did a full thing because of how much we actually invested into them. So you'd be surprised, you're investing into the future hard conversation that you might have to have when you're doing those one-on-ones and actually caring about people like humans, like Cale said. So just don't underestimate how important it is to actually take the extra time. That is your job as the leader. You're not the coach anymore, right? You're the leader for the coaches. So you pour into them, they can pour into your team. And it's the basics that people often overlook.
Chief Reminding Officer and Chief Accountability Officer. Those are your two roles at that point. So awesome. Well, cool. We appreciate you as always for listening to this. Hope you guys got some value from this. As always, if you did find value, our only request is, I got two requests. One, leave us a review. That'd be amazing. We'd love to hear what y'all think, as well as if you want to hear some episodes, drop us a comment on Instagram. Let us know in the DMs on @GymLaunch and let us know. And then as I freeze again, and then also just share it with another gym owner. We'd love it if you could just pass it on. So we'll catch you on the next episode.
Later.